Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino. I'm Ronnie Rance here on this Friday morning. TK joining us from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. I'm here in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame studios. Today on Sports Shorts Daily, got a lot of big topics to get to. LSU's women won last night at home. It was an ugly win, that hard-fought win over Ole Miss, who's got a nice squad. But it was the Reese story, 36 points, 20 rebounds, an unbelievable performance. She scored more than 50% of LSU's points. They survive, advance. Good win after a disappointing loss at South Carolina. You knew this was going to be a tough game, emotionally and otherwise. It was. Cal Ripken was in the building last night, as well as Jenny Finch, a couple former baseball and softball legends of the sport. The Iron Man in town. We'll tell you why he was here.
I got a Jenny Finch, Cal Ripken story involving me.
Okay.
You want to go with it now?
Sure.
Years ago, I was on a sports panel at the National Youth Sports Convention in Washington, D.C. There were like 10 people up there taking questions from all these youth coaches. I was on the panel because I used to be on the board of directors for that group. Well, sitting to my left was Cal Ripken Jr. Sitting to my right was Jenny Finch, okay? So when we got done, one of my friends, I'm in the back of the room, and he offers me $100 bill if I can tell him what color shirt Cal Ripken had on. Because he said, all I did was look at Jenny Finch.
Not bad. I don't blame you. And that was young Jenny Finch too, back in the day.
This was in the early 90s, yeah.
Yeah.
She's still smoking. She was real smoking then.
Yeah, Jenny Finch married, living in Sulphur. Wonderful lady. And of course, on the Mount Rushmore of softball, as far as fans in the United States are concerned, you may not be the greatest softball player ever to play, but she's on the Mount Rushmore if you ask fans. I can't name many softball players outside of LSU softball nationally. Fernandez, who pitched at UCLA, Jenny Finch.
Yeah. Well, then you go with
And the other one, Ostertag, the big tall lefty from Tennessee that pitches for Team USA. Ostertag, maybe I think it's Ostertag. Maybe I don't know. It might even not even be Ostertag. But as a basketball player, that's it. That's the three people I know.
Jenny Finch is at the top of the list.
Yeah. Also, LSU's men, this is their chance to get their second SEC win. It'll come against USC, South Carolina, tomorrow at noon in the PMAC. We'll give you the line on Sports Shorts Radio tomorrow morning. We're at Bruley Walk-Ons. I will say this again, regardless of what the line is, I'll be betting on USC.
Okay, I might have to think LSU's getting their first win.
Yeah,
I got to make that decision. I'll make that decision tomorrow morning when we're doing Sports Shorts Radio. We want everybody to tune in for that.
Oh, this is the garbage bowl, no doubt about it.
How about this, right? South Carolina, their last 10 games, they're 1-9. LSU is 0-10. Something you got to give here. Somebody's going to win, walk off the court with a W tomorrow.
This is a big game because, if LSU wins, South Carolina, and they both are tied with the same record with 2 wins in the league. South Carolina technically is last because they lost the head-to-head. So you don't want to do that. But we'll talk about it tomorrow on the show when we get that point spread out there. Bad news for Saints fans. Alvin Kamara gets officially indicted along with others from that brawl that happened in Las Vegas last year in the offseason. That is not good. That means it'll move to the next phase of going to trial potentially, unless there's a settlement or something, a plea deal. But where this leads to, Tommy, is you got to believe there's going to be some suspension coming forward. And again, how long and everything really is going to depend on whether he pleads guilty or whether it goes to trial or whatever. But inevitably, something's going to happen. There's going to be ramifications, a fine, games missed, and probably, as many people thought maybe Kamara was going to be traded when the Saints started to tank and things like that. But the issue is that everybody else in the league was like, well, we don't know what we're getting. You saw Christian McCaffrey get traded to the 49ers for a king's ransom. Obviously, the Saints could get something similar with a Kamara. The problem is they don't know, is he going to be out for a year? Is he going to miss 6 games? What's going to happen in this? Is he going to jail? What's going to happen in this major court case over in Vegas?
Well, certainly it's something the Saints are going to have to pay attention to. this story's far from over. I'm no lawyer, obviously, but when you're indicted, that means they have sufficient evidence and proof to think that you are guilty. That doesn't mean you're going to be found guilty. You could have a lot of things happen, but the Saints have to pay attention to this going forward.
All right, NBA All-Star games coming up in Vegas. Speaking of Vegas, I mean, Vegas is like the epicenter of the world right now in sports. It's going to have the Super Bowl next year. We know LSU and USC are going to play the first game of 2024 in Vegas. Where Vegas's name gets thrown around for every kind of league. I mean, they already have NHL. They've got NFL. They're expected at some point, if a team wants to move or have some expansion in the NBA, that they would have that. They're MLB. They have been outspoken about the fact that they want to eventually grow to 32 teams, but they want to get Oakland and Tampa straight first before they grow. Is Oakland going to move? Is Tampa going to get its stadium that they've been asking for forever? But whenever it happens, whether it's Oakland moving to Vegas, whether it's a new franchise, it's going to happen that Las Vegas is going to get an MLB team.
Yeah, sooner or later. Ronnie, when you look back, the whole thing with the gambling, and 20 years ago, the NFL, the NBA, they didn't want to talk about gambling. They would kind of shush, and every now and then when an announcer would make a reference to a line or a point spread, everybody would cringe. Of course, now, we can all bet on our phones, and I mean, it's just a different world. And, the money talks, and Vegas has embraced it. I mean, they had the Pro Bowl junk out there this year. That was a joke, but it was out in Vegas. The Super Bowl next year, and they're going to end up with Major League Baseball. We just don't know exactly when.
I got to be honest with you, Ronnie. You think that the USC and UCLA games stay on the schedule in 24 with Texas and UNC coming into the SEC that year too? I think what's most likely, if one of them's got to drop, is it'll be the UCLA one, not the USC one. Too much money, too big of a game. It would be USC would be game one of the year. It'd be that opener. But if anything gets moved or pushed down the road, it'll be, I think, the UCLA game, and most likely they wouldn't have an issue with that based off of recent history. But getting back to Vegas for a second, I mean, it is the absolute perfect playground for sports fans. Even though that USC game in 2024, I mean, people have been talking about that for a couple of years now. Everybody's looking forward to. Some people may go to Orlando for the LSU Florida State game, but everybody's going to Vegas for the LSU USC game. I mean, it's just, why not? It's if you're a golfer, if you're love shows, if you love gambling, if you love beautiful hotels and great food and the glitz and the glamour, and oh, by the way, you get to play in a beautiful new stadium that's covered, air conditioned. So who cares if it's 105? It doesn't make a difference. I mean, it's just perfect. And but the only thing that I will say, Tommy, I'll be curious to see is if MLB goes to the desert and goes to Vegas, they've got to get a retractable roof.
They will.
They're going to have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, the money will dictate that you got to do that, and they will do that. I'd be stunned if they did not do that.
Yeah, currently they have a AAA team there, and they've
had one for a long time.
Yeah, and they don't have, obviously, a retractable roof stadium. And I'll say this from living in Phoenix for many, many years, like I did back in the 90s. The different, you can have 100-degree, 110-degree, 105-degree day like they have many of in the summertime out there, but at nighttime, or if you're in shade, if you have a covered stadium and you're in shade, or if you have as soon as that sun sets, I mean, it makes a giant difference. I mean, in Louisiana, there's really not much difference between 9 o'clock and 6 o'clock. But in Vegas and Phoenix, there's a huge difference between 9 o'clock and 6 o'clock relative to comfort and temperature and all that kind of stuff. So, it's not as enormous as you would think, especially if they played, all night games, which most people do. All right, let's circle back to the top. Oh, and then Tiger Woods. I want to talk about Tiger Woods for a minute. It's his return again. And someone said to me yesterday, Tommy, it seems like every year there's a comeback for Tiger Woods. And this was not a big time golf fan. And I'm like, listen, what you don't understand is with Tiger Woods, not only did he have the off the field drama of 13 years ago, whatever it was about this, but physically, The injuries that this guy has had physically would have retired normal mortals. But Tiger Woods is not a normal mortal. He's on that Mount Rushmore. He's considered to be potentially the greatest ever to play. And he has overcome knee injuries, back injuries, car accidents where he almost lost his leg. I mean, not to mention the drama of his personal life playing out in the tabloids in front of the world. I mean, that's what it's like Muhammad Ali. It's not the fact that there weren't better boxers, but it's the fact that every time he got beat, he'd come back.
Well, no one in the history of golf moved the needle like Tiger did. With all respect to Palmer and Nicklaus and the others, that before you had the explosion of media and all that, Tiger moves the needle. Here's the other thing: there's about 175 guys with a tour card. Every one of them is happy that Tiger Woods is there, that he's playing, because he's the reason the purses are so big and they've grown like they have since he hit the golf world in the mid-90s, as an amateur and then as a pro, and the majors and the titles and all of that. And look, I watched yesterday. He's not limping as much as he did when he played with his son in that little exhibition event back in December. I didn't see him limping as much yesterday. Now, he played into the late afternoon yesterday. He birdied the final 3 holes to get the 2 under for the tournament.
Tied for 27th.
That was pretty cool. But he has to tee off 7:30 this morning, LA time. So it's the quick turnaround. Of course, they're analyzing that. Like, how will his leg do? Blah, blah, blah. You got to get up at 3:30 in the morning and get ready to go play. And more importantly, to walk 18 holes. And not swinging a golf club. He can swing the club without any issue. It's walking 18 holes. And not the hilliest of courses, but there's plenty of up and down at Riviera. So I think it's great to see. And of course, him and McIlroy, and they're getting some others to join forces.
How about yesterday's group was him, McIlroy, and Justin Thomas? I mean,
and by the way,
better than that.
By the way, they all birdied 18. So all 3 of them birdied 18. I mean, if you're in the gallery watching that, you're like, hey, that's pretty cool. Because crazy as this sounds, it's not often when all 3 guys, I don't care if it is Tiger and Justin and McIlroy, birdie the same hole. That's rare. I mean, it happens, but it's rare, or it happens on a Thursday morning with 3 guys you never heard of on the tour. But when you have a marquee group like that, hey, it was fun to watch. I was watching it.
Yeah, it was incredible. And actually, Tiger, and I think it was Tiger and Rory. I don't know. I know at least 2 of them birdied the first hole, maybe all 3. I don't know. But Tiger Woods, I mean, how about that? He, first game, boom, birdies the first hole. Now, it's a par 5. It wasn't the hardest hole, but still incredible that he birdied it. What was amazing was, here we are, you're at Riviera and in the Genesis Open, this big event in LA, and they've got some of the greatest golfers in the world. And I mean, the crowds were so thin on all the other golfers. Like, they would cut away. Let's go to 15 and watch Morikawa, make this putt. And it'd be like, Morikawa's family walking around with him, because everybody was fixated on that A group with Tiger Woods.
There's no question about that. Ronnie, it reminds me years ago, the old Sports Down the Middle days when we interviewed David Toms, and Alan Risher asked Toms, does it amaze you about Tiger Woods? And David Toms, accomplished golfer himself, said, it doesn't amaze me that he goes out and shoots 66 or he makes 3 30-foot putts. It amazes me that he can put up with the entourage, the crowd, the rock star status, the superstar status. And when he gets out the car in the parking lot, it doesn't stop until he gets back in the car in the parking lot, and then they're taking pictures of that. That's what I remember David Toms saying. That's what amazed him, that he could handle all that other stuff, And now it's actually more other stuff because of the injuries and the automobile accident and the affairs and all of that. But, hey, bottom line is the guy moves the needle, and he's the reason the purses are so big out there. That guy that finishes 67th this weekend is going to get a whole lot more money than he got 20 years ago. Significantly
the guy who now you have to, obviously the PGA is different than the Live Tour, which is why a lot of players were considering Live, because they get guaranteed money and they get paid no matter what happens on the weekend. So Phil Mickelson, as much hot garbage as he was last year, he still got paid. Whereas in the PGA, you don't get paid unless you make the cut. That's the beauty of that league. It's also, if you're an athlete, hey, you want the guaranteed money. Who wouldn't? But the guy who finished last week at the Phoenix Open, and I want to say There were 70-something golfers, 80-something golfers that made the cut because the Phoenix Open had a giant field. I mean, I think they teed off like 160, 70 golfers, something like that on Thursday. But the person who finished last got $47,000. Now you got to give 5% to your caddy or whatever, maybe 10%. You got an agent, you got to travel, you got to fly, and you got to put yourself up in a hotel and all that. So, you take your expenses out and as well as your agent fees and your caddy
taxes
fees,
and
taxes and all that. So it's not a big payday, but it's,
you're still clear. You're still clearing 10.
In your pocket.
You're clearing 10 or 15 grand. Yeah.
Right. And,
well, you don't know what else. Titleist is giving the guy $5,000 every time he.
Oh yeah. I mean,
there's tons of other things. Yeah. So that 47 is only the tip of the iceberg.
Right, but still, you finished last after making the cut, and you made money for everybody, including yourself. But anyway, tremendous that Tiger's back. I mean, for him to be birdied the first hole, the last 3 holes, I didn't see the middle part of the round. I don't know if he had some other birdies in there, but he had at least 4 birdies, and he's 27th, and he's relevant, and it's a great story. We'll be keeping an eye on him. Cal Ripken, we go back to that. He spoke, by the way, to the LSU baseball team yesterday, the Iron Man, who kind of popped up in town. Reason he's here, his daughter is touring the LSU vet school today. He went and ate at Phil's Oyster Bar, the official oyster bar of the Baton Rouge Rougarou. He went there for lunch yesterday. Anthony Piazza, the owner, was thrilled to death, a big fan of the Iron Man. To Ben McDonald, by the way, is who recommended Phil's Oyster Bar to go eat there yesterday for lunch. Jenny Finch was in the house. You wonder if maybe she came to see Cal or something. I don't know. I'm sure they know each other. But Jenny Finch, who lives in Sulphur, was at the LSU women's basketball game along with Cal Ripken yesterday. For LSU baseball, they moved the game up to 3:00. Interesting decision. It's not expected to rain at all today. But it is supposed to be, cold in the 40s. Opening day, moving the game up to 3 due to just cold. I'm a little surprised by that, Tommy.
Well, it's kind of probably messed up the plans of some of the fans. Okay, there's some people going to be there no matter what. They'd played at 6 this morning. There'd have been some people there, but they're just trying to stay away from the impending weather. That cold weather, no rain, cold, and at this time of the year, that wind blows in at Alec Box from the north, from left field, basically. And you freeze your tail off sitting in them grandstands or the bleachers or wherever you might be. 3:00 won't be quite as cold. I'm sure that was part of the consideration.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess every single ticket sold opening day. I've already had many requests of people wanting tickets for today. I'm actually going to be doing a tour. We had a Louisiana, and we have this auction item once a year. Every year, it's 4 tickets to opening day. I take you on a private tour underneath the stadium and all around the ballpark prior to the start of the game. Go ahead.
Does the tour include getting to see the famous Buzzy Heidel bat with the last home run in the old box? I mean, that's got to be one of the main ingredients of the tour. I'm glad to know
it's inside the Wally Pontiff Jr. Hall of Fame, right behind the third base dugout. Yeah, absolutely. We go to the Hall of Fame.
Got to look at the Buzzy bat. I mean, the Buzzy bat's big.
Exactly.
By the way, Tulane opens at Cal Irvine this weekend, baseball. And, of course, Cal Irvine is who Buzzy hit the bomb off of.
That's right.
Last bomb.
The Anteaters.
The last bomb in the old Alec Box. And nobody will ever beat Buzzy's record.
The Anteaters, one of my favorite mascots in all of college sports. 2008, a moment everybody will remember. It put LSU over the top. It was like their 23rd run of the game. Buzzy went deep fly.
You know what he told me? He told me he buggy whipped it. Baseball people know what that means.
Now, if he buggy whipped it, he'd pull something.
Oh, yeah, he'd be in trouble.
LSU's women, they survive and advance. It was an ugly game. I was a little concerned. I thought Ole Miss came with a lot of effort. They kept it close. LSU ended up winning by single digits. And Reese, who was a little clunky early on, you looked up at the end, second half, kicked it in. You looked at the end, 36 points, 20 rebounds, Tommy. That is an answer. Boston, of course, led her team to victory. Dominated LSU by 24 points. But Reese brought it. No let up for her, man. She said that was a message she sent yesterday.
Yeah, no, that was a message that she sent, and the other teams better take note of that. Question from Todd Jones: will LSU do anything in the near future with the right field bleachers, make it more friendly for students? There's a lot of talk about that. I know there's some changes that Jay Johnson wants to make, notably get the bullpens out of play. And it could be done. It'd be a little project. It might have to be a double-decker bullpen out in right center field was one conversation I was heard, but there's some other things he wants to have done. We'll have to see. It won't be done immediately, but hopefully going forward it can get some things done. Or
so the question is asking about the bleachers to help the students. And look, the bottom line is that there's other projects that take priority over the student bleachers, unfortunately. And it's weird. I would love to see LSU have some sort of atmosphere like Ole Miss has, right? They've got the best atmosphere in the SEC when it comes to their student section. But it's just never been that way. And it's unfortunate. But even in the heyday of LSU baseball, winning 5 national championships in the 90s, there was never just a plethora of students. There was never this unbelievable demand for student tickets for baseball. Just never has. And I'm sure in the heyday there were times where maybe they were sold out of student student tickets for games, but I don't know. And LSU baseball has a waiting list for season tickets, and they want that guaranteed money. They would rather have more student tickets than student tickets, but there's just not that overwhelming crush of demand for LSU baseball season tickets going back 30 years. And so, no, I don't think that's anything that's going to happen anytime soon. I just don't. I know that the bullpen is the priority.
It's not on the top of the list by no means. And, like you said, right, I mean, the students at basketball and at football, it's a big, big thing. Baseball just never really has been, and not just LSU, but everywhere. I mean, that's just kind of the way it goes, if you will. And LSU's not going to give up season ticket seats to give a student a $5 ticket or something like that.
The thing that happened at Ole Miss was organic because they had the tennis courts over in right field, and then they had the parking lot and everything associated with that, and it was up on a hill, and so the students started watching out there because they could bring coolers of beer and not be frisked by the guy at the gate, and nobody messed with them. It was kind of like their own little space. That's how it started 20 plus years ago. There is not that organic thing LSU. You can't. There's no hill. There's no parking lot they could take over. There's not. You would have to literally build a structure, and then LSU would have to take on the risk. And the reason that Ole Miss is so popular is because they do allow them to drink alcohol, and they're not going to do that in LSU. They're going to build a giant party deck for college kids, and then worry about underage drinking and all that stuff, or even just endorsing 21-year-olds getting obliterated. So it's kind of a catch-22. I just don't see them ever really going that route unless that's like the last thing on the list to do one day. But I do see LSU students being a little bit more into LSU baseball now than they were, say, even 15, 20 years ago because of social media. These guys are all stars now. With NIL and social media, the students are more connected to the players than they were ever before. They know who they are. They know what's going on in their life. And because of that stardom, there's interest at their age.
Well, and then when they were winning all the national championships, half the LSU baseball players could walk around campus and nobody knew they were a baseball player. Mm-hmm. Nobody knew they were an athlete, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, like you said, Ronnie, social media, if Dylan Cruz is walking around or Trey Morgan's walking around or whomever, if that's happening. So.
It's funny, Tommy, and I tell this story all the time. This is how LSU baseball has made it from a standpoint of it is the biggest of any college baseball program in the country. When Chris Reed didn't make the 35-man roster a few years ago, the former St. Michael player who, as going into a senior year, was the 36th guy cut on a 35-man roster at the end of the summer or the beginning of the fall or whatever it was, he sent out a letter He posted a letter on social media that LSU pushed out there, one of those, hey, it's been a pleasure to be a Tiger. It's been a dream, all that. It was talk on sports talk radio on multiple shows about, I can't believe they're getting rid of Chris Reed and da-da-da-da-da. What does this mean for the team? And da-da-da-da-da. He was the 36th guy on the team. Now, as he had a happy ending where months later when they had injuries and people get kicked off or whatever happened, Paul Mainieri ended up calling Chris Reed back 6 months later and getting him back on the team and all that. But my point is that, one, people around town who LSU baseball backers knew who the 36th guy in the team was, right? They had an opinion on whether he should be on the team. And I got to be honest with you, Tommy, gun to my head, I would struggle to remember who the 36th guy on the team was the 3 years I played at LSU. You know what I mean? Like as my teammate, you know, but that's how big LSU baseball is now, that you know who guys are that literally don't make the 35-man roster. And that's unbelievable because of social media and how big the program is.
And LSU baseball's got the greatest college baseball fans in America. I mean, there's no question about that. And the story you just told is one of the many reasons why they're at that level. I'm like you, Ronnie. I can't remember the last 5 or 6 guys that played with me, you know, because they weren't getting in the game no matter what the score was. And, you know, I mean, that's just the way it went back then. No social
Coach Bertman
media.
once told a player, he was a backup shortstop, and in 1990, Scott Bethea had made a bunch of errors at shortstop, but had a rough year defensively. And if you remember, the next year, Andy Sheets came in 91 and was a great player for 2 years and all that, and won a national championship. And the guy, you know, every error, you know, during the year, the guy would get closer and closer to Coach Bertman in the dugout. You know, he'd get his glove and he'd start stretching and, you know, patting his glove, you know, looking at Coach, you know, wanting to make sure, you know, hey, Coach, you know, I'm here, you know, I'm an option if you need me, you know, and he kept getting closer and closer, you know, top step of the dugout, letting them know I'm ready to go. And so Coach Bertman looks over at him. Finally, had enough after multiple games of this, and the guy kicked one around, and he finally looked at him and said, hey, so-and-so, I don't care how many errors he makes, you're never getting in there.
Hey, Ron, I got a question for you from Jamie. How many SEC games do we think the Tigers will win this year? I have an answer.
Okay.
20.
20-10.
I'm going 20-10. It's going to be more than the Rams 13. I know that.
So, you know, obviously the goal is to go 20-10. That when you win 2 out of 3 for every series you play. And I think that, you know, and if you go 20-10, 95% of the time you're going to win the West, you're going to win the league overall. But I'm going to take the over, Tommy, on 20 wins. There you go, Steven. That's I'm 21-9, 22-8. Listen, if they don't have arm injuries, Grant Taylor, that's a big loss. Grant Taylor's out for the year. That happened this past week. I mean, that was disappointing to see because he was throwing really well. I talked to Jay about him a couple weeks ago. Like, they really liked what he was doing. He's a guy who could wear multiple roles. That's a big loss, Grant Taylor going out. You can't have more of those, right? Because then it does change what. But if that's it, Grant Taylor, and they're able to stay healthy, I think 21-9. I think they go over. This team is supposed to be that good. And I never say that. I never take over 20 wins.
I don't think they'll get swept. Okay, that's going to be amazing if that happens. I don't care who they're playing. And they open up with the 3 toughest, A&M.
No way they get swept.
Tennessee, Arkansas. So, therefore, if they don't get swept and they sweep 1 or 2 people, it's going to be over 20. So, we'll go with the Sports Shorts Daily prop bet for you. Over 20 on SEC wins for the LSU Tigers this year.
That's unbelievable.
And by the way, they won 17 last year. Last year, they went 17-13, Jay Johnson's first year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I you know, I don't know. H-Town Tiger. I lived next to Larson and Barbier when I was
Oh,
attending LSU. Good times. Listen, H-Town, don't be putting out any stories.
yeah.
Take
That's
it with
why,
you to the grave. Take it with you to the grave.
especially with Larson. Maybe not as many with Barbier.
Yeah, Black could throw down. He just did it with a smile. All right. All right. That's going to do it for Sports Shorts Daily. We'll be back on Sports Shorts Radio tomorrow morning from 10 until noon. We'll be live at the Bruley Walk-Ons. We may even have a Buzzy Heidel sighting tomorrow. And over at the Bruley Walk-Ons. The doors open at 11 there. Come have lunch with us. If you're driving in from Baton Rouge, I'm driving in from Lafayette, you're over on the west side, you're going to the LSU basketball game, going to the LSU baseball game, stop by, have some lunch with us at the Bruley Walk-Ons. We're like three minutes off the interstate, right across from Bruley High School, basically on Highway 1 on the west side. So come visit us. We look forward to that. Tommy, tell us about Tremonti's on the way out.
Crawfish will be ready at 3 o'clock today. Had a guy just called, ordered 2 sacks of live crawfish. Boiled crawfish, live crawfish. The boiled crawfish ready at 3 p.m. today. They're going to have the barbecue ribs for lunch special tomorrow. Today it's fried catfish with the crawfish etouffee on it. But they got crawfish. Call and place your orders for the sacks for the weekend, whatever you want to do. Boiled crawfish ready at 3 p.m. Connect with Tremonti's Meat and Seafood on Facebook and Instagram, or visit the website on your screen, Tremontis.com.
He's Tommy. I'm Ronnie. We'll see you tomorrow morning for more Sports Shorts Daily presented by Sports Shorts Radio tomorrow morning, 10 to noon on 104.5 in Baton Rouge, presented by LeBears.